The blessing, the blessing, the blessing is on my life. I'm increasing on every side. All my needs He's already provided. I'm living in the overflow.
Hello and welcome to The Blessing with Joe Benjamin, the Blessing Man. I always feel turned on in my spirit when I'm coming to teach and to study the Word of the Lord. So every week I come here, I'm excited, I can't wait to come and bring the next episode to you and just download to you what God has downloaded in my spirit. And today we want to talk about prayer. You see, the blessing show is a place where you can learn, where everybody can learn how to live a blessed life. And one of the ways to live a blessed life is to be a person of prayer. And today I want to talk about a lifestyle of prayer.
Thank you to our partners and friends for making it possible to bring you this message. Those wishing to partner with Joe Benjamin can do so at www.joebenjamin.org.
Let's talk about prayer today. Remember, one of the ways to live a blessed life is to be a person of prayer, given to prayer, because the blessings fall down when the prayers go up. Now, let me share with you a little story. A few years ago, I went to a friend's house in a really big yard. We were playing real energetic football in the grounds on the big fields, and I soon ran out of breath. We were running, kicking the ball and tackling each other and all sorts of things. And after about 45 minutes, an hour, I really started to run out of breath. I almost felt as if my system was about to shut down. And I realized then how unfit I was. My body wasn't fit, my cardio wasn't fit, I was just not exercised enough. You see, my knees were gone, I was tired, I almost felt like I was going to faint. So I stopped and I took a break out of the football and let the others continue. And instantly, God started to speak to me and also showed me the resemblance of the condition that I was in and also the condition in the spiritual, how those could type each other. You see, if your body isn't exercised enough, if your physical body and your muscles don't get enough physical exercise, you will shut down, your body will faint, you won't be fit to do everything that you need to do. But on the flip side, if your spiritual man, you see, the spirit man, isn't exercised enough and isn't fit, the spirit man will faint. Now we see from the scriptures, Luke 18, Jesus says, I would that you pray and you won't faint. And the lesson is, the physical exercise that we get to our bodies does what prayer does to the spirit man. Let me say that again. Physical exercise does to the body what prayer does to the spirit man. So from that day, I started exercising, I started going to the gym, I started training, and I tried to keep really fit because I wanted my body to be strong and fit for the work that I do, for the work of the Lord and everything else, and just to be, fit and all-rounded. But then God also then gave me a revelation that tell my people that if their spirit spirit man isn't exercised by prayer. You see, as you pray, as you open your mouth, as you pray in the Spirit, what you're doing, you're exercising your spiritual muscles. And as you exercise your spiritual muscles, what happens? The spirit man grows from strength to strength. This is why we all need to be people of prayer. And I wrote a book called A Lifestyle of Prayer, How to Be a Prayer Fountain. And I wrote this book after I got this revelation from the Lord, and I started to share in that book. And I've got that book here, and I'm going to share a few things that come from this book today. You can grab the book, a copy of the book, from my website, joebenjamin.org, where we can get it all shipped out to you. But in this book, I talk of many things. And for example, I talk about the secret place. What is that secret place that every believer should have? I talk in this book about the 3 spheres of prayer. What are those spheres of prayer? But if you get the book, you'll be able to get into that and be able to actually see what is in that book in detail. So there we go again. Physical exercise to your body strengthens your natural man, but prayer strengthens the spirit man. How many people are walking, how many Christians go to church every Sunday, but their spirit man is so skinny, so starved, and so unfit because they don't have the exercise of prayer? You see, prayer prepares you for any place that you want to get into. I remember I did a half marathon run a few years ago. And when I did the half marathon run, for me to be able to be fit enough to do the half marathon and be able to complete it successfully, I had to go through some rigorous training, running, exercising, and just to keep me fit and healthy so I could be able to go through that half marathon race. And I remember when Jesus was betrayed, and Jesus was about to be crucified, he went into the Garden of Gethsemane. And when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, what was he doing? He was praying. And as he was praying, he was exercising his spiritual muscles, and prayer became preparation for what was coming ahead. Let me say that again. Prayer prepares you for what is coming ahead. So if ever you wanted to be prepared for anything that is going to attack you in the spirit realm, you want to be a person of prayer. And in this book, I teach you how to be a person of prayer and to have a lifestyle of prayer. You see, the church is so full now of preachers and teachers and bishops and big people that have taken prayer from the laity. Prayer has been taken from the people. Now, it seems if you go into some of these big cathedrals, the only person that can pray is the priest. The only person that can pray is the father or the big bishop. That's the only person that prays, and people in the benches are just sitting there and there's no prayer at all. But I believe when you start to pray, you become a partner with God. Let me say that again. Prayer makes you a partner with God. And how do I know that? Because the scripture says if two agree, if you can touch and agree, we can actually bind things on earth, and by binding, as we bind those things in prayer, whatever we bind on earth is also bound in heaven. You see, so prayer gives you the ability to get into a partnership with God to make things happen on the earth. Prayer gives God the permission to intervene and interfere with the affairs and the events of mankind. This is the power of prayer. And you want to look to yourself and be a person of prayer. See yourself as a person that is dedicated to prayer. This is a life of blessings, a life of overflow, where your cup is always running over, where you do not have any stress, any worries in life. Why? Because everything is taken away in prayer. Think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. As he was there praying, and even his sweat drops were blood. as he was agonizing in prayer. And from that garden, we then see the results of how he happily went to the cross. And the blessing, or every blessing, was released through Jesus Christ from his obedience and from the prayerful life that he led. So, purpose in your heart to be a person of prayer. I talk in the book about how you can actually develop a lifestyle of prayer. I talk about the different, I give you many things that you can use to make your life constant prayer. And there is a way you can actually pray 24/7. Do you know that? There is a way you can pray 24/7. That means 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every minute you are constantly in prayer. And I teach about that in the book. All right, there's another lesson I want to leave you with in this episode. You are called to pray for something. Let me say that again. You are called and specifically given a burden and a purpose to be an intercessor for one particular issue or one particular thing in the world. You see, you can never solve all the world's problems. You can never be a person that is praying for every issue. Lord, I pray for the president of Timbuktu. Lord, I pray for the fish that are in the ocean. Lord, I pray for the sun and the moon and the stars. You cannot be a person that has the ability to pray for everything. So what has God done? God has given us and put upon us different burdens. Sometimes you'll find that there is something that you are more burdened and passionate about when you start to pray. You see, sometimes you find that there is something that you feel it triggers what I call your prayer push buttons. You see, there is some prayer push buttons. And once you hear that thing, or once that thing comes out on the news, or once that thing happens, or when you hear about it, or it just presses a push button, and that push button is what then will cause you to start to go into prayer and start to really pray fervently. James chapter 5 talks about the effective and fervent prayer. A fervent prayer does much. A fervent prayer works more than a prayer that is half done. And how can you bring fervency in your prayer unless you're really concerned and you're burdened about the thing that you're praying for? You see, many times people will come to you and say, "Oh, brother, can you please pray for me?" Or maybe you'll go to people and say, "Sister, brother, can you please pray for me?" And from the time that you tell them to the time that they leave, they'll totally have forgotten what you've asked them to pray for. Why? Because they are not burdened about it. It's not a fervent prayer. You understand? But once you have an area that you know that God has really called me, there's some people out there that have been called just to pray for revival. Some people have been called just to pray for the sick, because whenever they see somebody that is sick, there's a prayer push button that is pushed and it triggers them to go into prayer action. So identify in your life, what is that thing that God has called you to be a prayer warrior for? Find that thing, identify it, and then start to pray in that direction and be a giant in that area. Take over that area and really get deep, and that's when you start to find results in your prayer life. I trust these few words have been a blessing to you. And as I said, the book that I wrote a few years back called A Lifestyle of Prayer, How to Be a Prayer Fountain, is available on my website, joebenjamin.org. Grab yourself a copy and immerse yourself in that book if you want to grow and live the blessed life, which of course is a life of prayer.
Thank you to our partners and friends for making it possible to bring you this message. Those wishing to partner with Joe Benjamin can do so at www.joebenjamin.org.